Hi friends, and welcome to the Healthy Beyond 40 show. I'm Michelle, mama 4 and military wife, and I'm passionate about helping women get healthy from the inside out so they can feel better and live their best life. Do you feel like you're struggling to lose weight and get in shape? If you're ready to develop healthier habits, exercise consistently, and lose weight sustainably, then you're in the right place. I combine my expertise from my doctorate in physical therapy to my experience as a health coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher to bring you actionable steps for a healthy lifestyle. No magic pill here, so lace up those shoes and get moving. So I'm so excited to have Meg on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about functional health for women. So maybe you're feeling tired, bloated, or overwhelmed, and you want to learn how stress, digestion, and lifestyle affects your health. So we're going to be diving into her cascade method and hormones and digestion and all these things that affect our nervous system and affect the functions in our body. So I'm so excited to have a guest and an expert on the podcast today. And if you're looking for an easy way to get started on your health journey, check out my Healthy for Life membership. Inside of it, I have a mindset course where you can have the tools to learn how to calm your nervous system. And this is so often overlooked, but it is so key when we want to have better health, because our nervous system, being able to regulate it, being able to have tools to handle our emotions or stress, different ways to think about things, really impacts our health. Plus, it also has hundreds of fitness videos, so no more scrolling through YouTube wondering what to do. The workouts are quick and effective and designed by me to help you exercise safely and keep your body strong for the long term. So make sure you guys check out the podcast description down below for that. I'm so excited today to have Meg on the podcast. She's going to be talking about functional women's health. So Meg, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. So I have an interesting background sort of for where I am actually and what I'm doing, because I got a doctorate in clinical pharmacy. So I actually graduated, did a residency, and worked as a clinical pharmacist. And what I saw was a lot of things that were happening in the healthcare system were a little bit disturbing to me. We are putting more and more people on medications. We have protocols to do that. I knew the protocols. I knew why we were doing it. But what I was starting to see is that people were just getting more and more sick on more and more medications. We're just really in that survival mode rather than really making it so that we thrive. And so this was kind of going on in my career. And then at the same time, I was having a lot of my own personal health issues. So I was having a lot of GI issues. I was sensitive to so many things. I didn't know what I could eat. I didn't know, we'll talk through some of these things, but it felt like the triggers were so fluctuating. Like I couldn't pinpoint what the things were that were triggering me. I was getting anxiety. I was having trouble sleeping. I'm having all this, and I'm young. So we moved around a lot at that time, and I would move somewhere else and go to a new gastroenterologist or a new doctor and, think, oh, I'm going to get answers now. And they would be like, oh yeah, you're young, you're healthy, everything's good. And I'm like, I feel terrible. And so I'm a researcher by nature. That I love to dig in and research and educate. And I started digging in myself, and I found functional medicine. And this is years ago, before functional medicine was more mainstream. And so I started doing it, like learning about these concepts, and really started to implement them in my own life. And I started to feel so much better. So I actually left my current role, and I went back and got a certification in functional medicine and opened up a functional medicine virtual practice where I actually work with women all over the world. And we see these huge transformations in health when we look at it this other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a big missing piece to our healthcare, because I hear so many stories just like you where we go to doctors and we're not getting the answers because it doesn't fit the model of care that they're giving. And my husband, he's a nurse practitioner. He went back to school later in life, but I mean, you're trained one way and you're trained how to use drugs.
Exactly.
And that's about it. So it's really hard. So people start looking for these other answers. So
yes. Yeah. And it's not their fault. That's what, like, you're trained that way, and that's your toolbox. But it's like a lot of these things don't fit in that toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you start seeing these missing pieces, but they don't know what to do because it's not there's standards of care that providers are taught to use, and you almost can't think out of the box or can't think that something else could be the problem. So what do you see are the biggest problems women are facing right now when it comes to their health?
And I kind of see this in a couple different ways. I feel like one, like just like we're saying, we're being let down by some of the conventional models. Really women, let's just even go back in history when we look at a lot of the clinical trials that were done on medications, we said that medications are the toolbox that a lot of providers in the conventional space are using, and that's what they're given. And if your symptoms don't fit that, you're not given answers. In addition to that, a lot of the drug trials throughout our history were also done on men. So women were often excluded from a lot of these trials. So we're just, when we're looking even at dosing, at things like that, they're more on a healthy male body than a woman's physiology. So we're really kind of left out of some of this research, even in the past. So you're going to your doctor, you're looking for answers. You're often being told you're fine, not given the right answers. And then there's another component that comes into play here that I see often is the culture that we're in. We're in a quick fix culture. We're also, if we aren't satisfied with the conventional space, then we're kind of we're scrolling our phones a lot. We're looking through social media, and we keep getting all of these just do this and just do that. And this quick fix and, 4 weeks and you're going to be better and all of these things. So I, see a lot of people grasping then you're like, okay, no, I want to do something more natural. I know there's something different, but then you're on maybe all these supplements. It's funny because I've had a weighted vest for 10 years. We got them for a purpose years and years ago. And I've never seen anyone, my neighborhood with a weighted vest. And then influencers in this past year started talking about weighted vests. Now, everyone walking around my neighborhood's wearing a weighted vest because everyone's just trying to grasp. So we're trying to grasp, but we're not really getting the full picture, or we'll talk about the steps in the right order to actually make change. And then thirdly, we're living in a time of chronic stress. So we're just in this sympathetic dominant nervous system all the time. So we're trying to juggle our work, our family, our expectations, and our bodies are stuck in this fight or flight mode. And when that happens, our digestion slows, our hormones misfire, detoxification, it sort of stalls. So we need to really break down what we need to do step by step to bring our body back into balance.
Yeah, and I think it can be so easy, like you said, to start seeing these different things to try. And I think I will love your opinion. I think the thing that's tricky in functional medicine, why conventional medicine has a problem with it, is it's sometimes the answer is different for everybody. One person might need this supplement or have this, and conventional medicine is a little more, of course, there's thinking, especially with more complex things, but it's very straight and narrow, what you do almost for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And for functional medicine, it's so different. I think that's why it does help working with someone, or just having a good amount of knowledge. So you're not trying a bunch of things and getting frustrated. That maybe isn't your problem to start.
Exactly. Because someone, we hear a lot of influencers, let's just say, saying, okay, or even how I've seen a lot of health professionals that are maybe in the functional space or things actually, saying this is the thing. If you do this thing, this is going to change everything for you. And that's not necessarily true. You're just saying, everyone's different. And maybe that is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but is it the right thing for you right now? And if you're not doing the right thing for your body at the right time, you might not be really getting the benefit that you think you are, or that you're paying for when you're doing something. And then you can often feel let down and then just sort of overwhelmed.
Yeah, because in functional medicine, it's all about going to the root cause. So you can have this symptom, but you really have to figure out what is the cause for that specific person, which it could be different things. And I want to highlight, you mentioned sort of being busy. So stress and sleep come up for me that I see a lot. And it's so foundational. It's so interesting. I'll be talking to some people and they're literally just not sleeping enough. And they're talking about how they're tired and fatigued. And I'm working on those very basic things of trying to get enough sleep and lowering stress, makes such a big difference in our body, how it functions. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
I think you've made a great point. Yes, because people are coming in, it's like, oh, I'm so tired. And yes, you could have, I've seen time after time, like, yes, you can have nutrient deficiencies. You can have a low thyroid. There's a lot of things, your mitochondria might not be working right. That's our cell energy center. And those can all be things. There's many things that contribute, but if you're not getting a good night's sleep, then you're going to be tired. So we need to sometimes go back to those foundational things. Like if you're sleeping 5-6 hours a night, or you're up every 2 hours and you can't go back to sleep, or all of these things are going on, then that contributes to being tired. So it's sometimes we want to jump to that. Like, again, it's come back to what can I do for this? What can I take, rather than making some of those lifestyle choices that you're talking about to just calm your body. And so I think that that's also something, I see taking it a step backwards. So I see a lot of people that are struggling. They're trying to eat healthy. They're taking supplements. They're following the latest health trends. And we're still seeing, okay, maybe they're still gaining weight. Maybe they're still tired. Maybe they're still, have bloated, all of these things. And we sometimes just need to take a step back. And I like to talk about it through what I call neurodigestion, because you can do all of those things. But if you're not digesting and absorbing what you're doing, like let's say you're taking supplements or eating right, if you're not digesting and absorbing those things, then you're not really getting the benefit and the nutrients you need to heal your body. And so we need to always work on what are the digestive functions? Like, do we have enough stomach acid? Do we have enough bile being excreted from the gallbladder? Do we have pancreatic enzymes? Like, there's all of these functions that we need to digest. But when we even take that one step back, your body, your nervous system is telling your body how to digest. So we have two different nervous systems. We have a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system. So your parasympathetic is your rest and digest. That's where you want to be when you're eating your food. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. That's saying, okay, I'm being chased by a lion. I have to run. And in our busy life, we're often living a lot of the time in that sympathetic nervous system. And we're saying, okay, we need to run from a lion. Our body's not prioritizing digestion. And so we do need to go back to the nervous system and say, okay, what are you doing to regulate your nervous system and be in that parasympathetic nervous system when you eat? Because that is actually going to signal your body to do the things, like we said, release the stomach acid, release the bile, release the enzymes. We have what we call migrating motor complex that pushes the food through. So it's telling your body to do all those things to optimize your digestion. And when we're living in this dysregulated nervous system all the time, we're not giving our body the right signals. And I find that people don't want to, that takes again, exactly what you're talking about. That takes lifestyle change. That takes really looking at your body's response to stress. So I've had a lot of people say to me, well, I have all these things in my life. I can't just get rid of them. I can't eliminate some of these stressors. So what we work on is actually regulating your body to whatever's going on. So regulating your stress response and how you respond to stress, so that no matter what's going on, you can actually be calm. And we can do that. It takes practice, but we can start to build habits that can actually help you regulate your nervous system, no matter kind of what's going on around the outside.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick break here and tell you about Organifi, because this is one of my go-to things to really help with my nervous system and help when things get stressful. I love their green juice because it's not just another green powder. It actually has a clinical dose of ashwagandha, which helps our body handle stress. So you won't find that in most green drinks. And it's why I keep coming back to this one after years. The other drink I like that Organifi has is the gold drink. And I like the pumpkin spice flavor if they have it. They also have it in chocolate. But it is so yummy, and it has turmeric in it and lemon balm, which is calming. So I love taking this before bed. Also, especially before and during my cycle, to really help me relax, decrease inflammation in my body, and to help me sleep better. So if you're trying to beat the holiday stress and the winter blues, check out these amazing tools to help you feel calm and grounded and to nourish your body from the inside. And use my code HEALTHY20 to save 20% off, and feel free to use that code again on any orders you take. All right, so let's head back to the episode. Yeah, I love that you brought that up because it's like someone may be feeling like, oh, I feel like I have this food intolerance or, I have constipation. And again, there could be multiple reasons, but one of them could be you're more stressed and your body isn't digesting the food. So it really goes back to finding that root cause and how much our nervous system rules the different systems in our body, are the hormones, the digestion, all those different things really go back to that nervous system. So I love how you said to help regulate the body to what is going on for them. And I love helping people with like mindset or seeing different things differently. I also do EFT tapping. So a great way to like release emotions and thoughts, because we have to bring that system back more into that calming nervous system. So tell me a little bit, I don't know if that touched on it at all. Tell us a little bit about the framework you use and the pillars or steps that you have seen that have made the biggest difference for women.
Yes, and that's where I talk about the order. Order really matters, and sometimes I see a lot of people getting order wrong. And so sometimes when we don't do things in the right order, then we can see backfires. And sometimes if you're having symptoms, they can get a lot worse if you do things in the wrong way. So the first thing, I develop what I call the cascade method. So think of we're cascading downhill to make sure everything is aligned, one thing after another. So the first thing is that we need to calm the nervous system. So we need to get out of that fight or flight and back into the rest and digest. And we can do the things that you just said. You can do the tapping, you can do meditation. I like to even start with micro habits. Like our breath is such a huge tool. So I'll have people just take 2 to 3 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day and just sit, ground your body and just like do some breath work. Maybe you do box breathing. There's a lot of different breath works like styles that you can see what like works for you and you feel your body calm down. So once you get that feeling of your body calming down, you realize what it feels like to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. And you keep kind of building that muscle memory of what that feels like so you can get back into that even when you're more stressed out. So we need to make sure that we're calming our body, calming the nervous system. And then we need to make sure that we're activating digestion. So like I mentioned, we can be taking the best supplements, we can be eating the best diet, but if we aren't digesting our food, then we're not getting the full benefit of what we're doing. And this, when you look at functional medicine, everybody says like everything begins in the gut. And so that's our interface of how we're bringing nutrients or even, things that our body's not understanding, like inflammatory foods and things like that into our body. And that's the interface. So we want to make sure that we're supporting digestion, that we're supporting enzymes, that we're balancing our microbiome, that we're supporting the gut lining, all of these things to optimize digestion so that we can really make sure that everything is in balance there. So once we have the body calm and we have the microbiome balanced and we've activated digestion and we've made sure that the gut lining is supported, those are steps that our body's back in to more of a balanced state. So then we actually supplement with nourishment. So we need to rebuild whole anti-inflammatory foods with key nutrients. So you want to think of ingredients, if you can't read the label on something, then do you want to be putting all of those things in your body? We have a lot of things that are packaged foods, that are processed foods, eliminating those foods and bringing in these whole anti-inflammatory foods where we're thinking building in the fruits and vegetables, building in the proteins, building in these key nutrients. So we need to make sure that we're nourishing our body. And then we need to clear the congestion and the toxins. So before we do that, though, we need to make sure that we have open drainage pathways. So we hear a lot about detox now. So we're getting a lot more aware that there's things that can be stored in our body, and we can get into each one of these in more depth if you want to. But these are, the kind of the basics of them. But we don't want to push any sort of toxins out of the body if our drainage pathways are blocked. So things like if you're constipated, if you're not sweating, if you're not drinking enough, those kind of things will actually, if your lymph isn't flowing, those kind of things will block detoxification. So we need to make sure that all the drainage pathways open and that we can actually clear anything that we would move. And so we want to then start to move and eliminate that overall toxic burden. And that even goes within our body and in our environment. We need to be, do you have air filters in your bedroom? What kind of water do you drink? Are you using a lot of plastics? We want to make, a lot of these food containers are in plastic. And then you see, especially the ones that are prepared, they say like put the plastic in the microwave. And that's the worst thing you can do because it's just going to melt into your food. So are you considering all of these things that are just cleaning up and lowering that burden as much as we can? And then after that, we actually work on hormones and metabolism. So, that's often what people want to do first. But if we get these other things in line with our body, a lot of the hormone rebalance naturally. So a lot of them are out of balance because of other things going on with your body. And so we look at rebalancing hormones. We want to look at cortisol. So cortisol is our primary stress hormone. What is our pattern of cortisol? Is it going up in the day and down at night so we can sleep? We want to look at our thyroid function. That's our cellular metabolism. How is your thyroid functioning? Look at your sex hormones. Are they balanced? We want all of that to be balanced. And then, really metabolism, your diet. How are you processing your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins? Are your cells uptaking glucose? Do you have balanced insulin levels? All of these things that we're looking at. And then we want to look after that at energy and mitochondria. Really looking at your body on a cellular level and just making sure that your cells are optimized for long-term function and vitality. And once we have all of those in line, we want to really establish good habits and mindset and reinforce all of the things that we've done. So we want to make sure that when we're working on things, they're also doable. I think that's another thing that we sometimes overshoot, and it's like, oh, we're trying these really strict patterns that we can't sustain. And if we can't sustain it, it's not going to help you. So is what you're doing, that's a question to ask yourself. Is it sustainable? Do you have reinforcements? Do you have resilience? Do you have ways to really make sure that this is long-term? So we start to see this flow naturally from one thing to the next to really just bring the body back into balance. Our bodies are designed to heal. We just have to give it that opportunity.
Yeah, and I love how you call this the cascade, because I think, so many people will jump to some of those things at the end first instead of starting at the beginning. And like you said, when you start to calm the nervous system and you start to nourish your body and giving it the foods it needs, that constipation might clear up, right?
Yes.
So these things that seem like problems, some of these basic things, and they're not, even though I said basic foundational things, will start to really help with those other things. And as you were talking about nourishment, and I'm sure we're in a line with eating real whole food most of the time. For some people who have not ate well, that almost feels like a restriction to them. So I would love to hear your perspective of how nourishing our bodies with good whole food is not restriction, or what you would say to someone.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So what I try to focus on is actually, instead of saying, don't eat this, a lot of times, like you're saying, it's like, don't eat this, cut this out. And we talk a lot about that. But I try to focus on build these good habits. So let's build these in. So let's say, can you add 2 vegetables to every meal? And can you get a source of lean protein with every meal? So if you say, okay, I'm going to make sure that every time I eat, a meal particularly, that I'm going to see if I can get lean protein, and I'm going to add 2 servings of vegetables, you're naturally going to shift the way you eat. So I would say, if you're someone who feels like that, think of, well, what can I do? What are the things that I can add? So it's not about not eating. That's a whole another conversation. We could get into a trap that many people do. I mean, that backfires, because when we're talking about cortisol and the hormones, when we starve ourselves and we don't eat, we get a whole nother set of issues. We want to be nourishing. We want to be feeding our body, but can we be feeding our body with things that are healthy? Can we have a lot of different nutrients? Sometimes we say, can you eat the colors of the rainbow? I even did that with my kids when they were little. But you could do it with yourself as an adult too. I mean, we put laminated the colors of the rainbow in the different foods, and then they could check off like ones that they've eaten. So they got different colors, and it was just like a little game that we did, but it was a good way for them to get a variety of fruits and vegetables into their diet in a way that was fun. So what can you do to motivate yourself and, have some fun with it, and just think, okay, I am trying to get these things in rather than I'm trying to eliminate.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's perfect. And it's sort of a habits-based approach, which I like to use with people too. And I think it's a little bit like shedding this mindset we get from the culture that just accepts these foods as food, even though they're no longer foods too. So releasing that a little bit. And so you brought up overwhelm. And I think especially when some people are on this journey, it can seem very overwhelming. So I like how you have this cascade of steps, and even how you brought up like plastics and different things like that. I always tell people, like, you're sort of on your level where you are now, and it's just a journey. So as people are listening, I don't want you to get overwhelmed and think you have to like clean up everything, clean up your water, your air, everything all at once. It's just gradually over time, you can start swapping out some of these things. But it's always starting with that thing that is most important and is going to make the biggest impact for you right now.
Yes. Yeah. I say the same thing. Swap out the next time you're done with, let's say, your face wash or your moisturizer or something. You can go, there's so many apps you can use now. You can go to Yuka, you can go to EWG. There's so many different places you can look at ones that are lower toxins. So you can just, when that's done, just swap it with something else that is better for you.
Yeah. All right, friends, I'm going to pause this episode here. I hope you have been enjoying this. Next week, I'm going to be releasing part 2 because just like workouts, I don't think these podcast episodes should be longer than 30 minutes. So make sure you guys tune in next week. If you found this interesting, please share it with a friend. All right, have fun, guys, and keep moving.